Hello everyone, it's me, Riffraff Hornhelm, and I'm back again with another presentation from the Dwarven Vault. And today we have a monster review for you. We're going to talk about a very famous monster from film and screen. Well, not really, it's from D&D, but it's the Mummy. Wow, spooky stuff, people. And this creature comes to us from the Monster Manual, the original Monster Manual, as used with Dungeons & Dragons and Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, or what's typically referred to as 1E. The Mummy is a very nasty creature. It has a lot of secondary bits to it that make it more interesting. It does 1 to 12 points of damage by bludgeoning. Not that bad, right? But there's a lot more than that. Now, these are also a 6+3 hit dice creature, and they have a armor class of 3. Now, with their bludgeoning attack, that does damage, obviously, but it also brings you into contact with the Mummy. If the Mummy is successful in hitting you, you are infected by this rotten scabrous disease that infects the Mummy. But now it's on you. And that can kill you in 1 to 6 months. It's a progressive disease, and it gets worse and worse as time goes on. It can only be gotten rid of by a cure disease spell. There are no other options. Okay? And if you're not cured in time, you will die. And after you die, you can only be brought back within the next 6 turns by a raise dead spell. Kind of limits your options. Now, in addition to that, if you get this disease, no other healing will work on you. And you'll recover hit points at only 10% of your normal rate. So let's say you get 1 hit point a night. It's going to take you 10 nights to get 1 hit point back if you are touched by the Mummy and don't save versus the disease. And the worst part is if you get touched by the Mummy and you have the disease, you can't get rid of it. And you can't save versus getting the disease when you're touched. That's pretty nasty, right? Now, these creatures are, they have 1 foot firmly planted in the positive material plane as well as being in the prime material plane. And as a result, there's a lot of things that won't affect a mummy. There are many things that can affect a mummy, but some of the things that can't, though it has no special magic resistance, include things like sleep, charm, hold, cold spells, paralyzation, poison. All of those will have no effect on this creature who, as I said, has a 1 foot firmly planted in the positive material plane. Creatures that are partially positive or negative material plane tend to have these issues with those spells. Now, there are some things that work very well with a mummy. One of them is not your weapons. You only do half damage. I mean, weapons just don't do all that much to them. It makes you think of the movies, right? Doesn't seem to matter what you do. They also have one other ability that you have to worry about a bit, is they can cause fear. Now, if you make a save versus magic, you're not affected by it. And if you are affected, it's only for 1 to 4 rounds. And it has less effect on a larger group of people. The larger the group of people is, the more plus you have in making your savings throw versus the fear that the mummy can induce. So that's not too bad, I guess. Certainly one of the lesser things to worry about with a mummy, but when it comes to destroying them, well, if weapons don't work that well, and a lot of spells don't work that well, there's always one real fallback. Fire. Fire's good. Fire and mummies just does not mix. Well, not for long. Can really light up a room, right? Fire of any kind has a tendency to not only damage the mummy, but to grow. So if you do something like throw a flask of oil at it, maybe the first round it does, well, for the sake of argument, say 1 to 10 points. The next round it's going to be 2 to 20. It grows. And magic fire gets additional damage out of it. But even regular fire will do. So really, if you're going to have to deal with a mummy, the best thing to do is to have a torch ready. They don't like those. Like I said, mummies and fire don't mix. Now, of course, as a dwarf, we're not likely to stumble into the places where mummies may be. And of course, they hang around in old tombs and dark places, things like this. And really, the old tomb and dungeon thing is the main hangout for a mummy. With us dwarves not enjoying having anything to do with the undead, we try and stay away from that as much as possible. But they are fun to use when you're playing the game. There's no two ways about it. They evoke a instant response from your characters because they have so much familiarity with the mummy in general, as comes to us from horror movies and books and things like that. Now, in talking to the greater Hornhelm community, how do they rank a mummy? In talking to the DMs, they put this about a 4. It's not that mummies can't cause a great deal of problem, but they're not the most difficult thing that's out there. Maybe a 4.5. From a DM standpoint, we didn't see them to be that difficult of an obstacle to overcome. Now, maybe that's being a little bit generous, because to kill a mummy, one of the ways of doing so, other than obviously burning it up, is to throw a raise dead spell on it. If it doesn't save, it comes back as a 7th level normal fighter. Still lawful evil, but just a fighter. Now, also, of course, we talked to the Hornhelm community, the players out there, about what they thought about going up against a mummy. They all seem to have this pretty well figured out, because from their view it was, well, just bring fire. They're not that hard. Pretty hard to argue with, to be honest. Fire really does in a mummy. If you're in a place where you can't get to fire, this can be a pretty effective creature. There's no two ways about that. The whole rotting disease thing over time, and the extremes you have to go to get that taken care of, especially if you're a lower level character, is not very attractive. So really, when it comes down to the mummy, the best thing to do is make sure you have fire ready. If you don't have fire, stand back far enough, use standoff weapons. If you get a magic user, definitely use their spells, and you shouldn't have too much difficulty with them. Certainly the players we spoke to on it, when we gave them the opportunity to rank it, they said that, hey, we're talking, 4.5 to 5. Okay, that's pretty fair, I think, for a mummy. They do have reasonable endurance, but if you got fire, you got no problem. So that, my friends, is The Mummy. Hope you found this interesting, enjoyable, informative. If you did, please be so kind as to leave us a like. Consider subscribing. Share with your friends. Leave us a comment. By all means, come back and see us again in the future. We very much appreciate your kind support. Take care, everyone, and remember, dwarves rock!